Listeners, there is a quiet exhaustion that comes from doing all the things right, yet feeling subtly out of sync inside. When our outer life looks successful but our inner world feels strained, something important is asking for attention. Today, we are exploring what happens when inner truth and outer purpose finally begin to move together, and how harmony becomes not a goal but a lived frequency. Welcome to the Divine Decode podcast, where we explore meaning, patterns, and the deeper intelligence shaping our lives. My guest today is Robin H. Clare, who is a best selling author and creator of the Harmony Method, a framework that helps people align inner truth with outer life so success flows with more ease and clarity. Today, we are talking about what it truly means to live in harmony when your inner world and outer purpose are no longer in conflict, but in conversation. And with that, I welcome you on the show, Robin. It is such an honor to host you today, and I'm looking forward to this conversation.
Great. Thank you, Pragya. It's so lovely to be here.
It's the same here. And Robin, before we talk about harmony as a method or philosophy, I am curious, that was there a moment in your own life when you realized that outer success without inner alignment simply was not sustainable and there was not much balance or harmony?
Yes, I would say what when that really started to impact me was when I was working as a the in my first time around working as a spiritual teacher and an author, and I had all these people that were counting on me to help, and a coach, a life coach, and yet I felt like a almost like a fraud because internally within me, I was still suffering from all of the trauma that I had been, exposed to in my life and maybe other past lifetimes as well. And because I hadn't done my inner healing, this idea of being a guide to others in the external world became a strong conflict for me until I started working on my inner world so that it could reflect the teachings that I was bringing forth into the outer world.
That is actually, um, firstly, thank you for telling your journey through it because what I feel, as you said, that even if there is something that you're doing for other people, which is, very worldly, kind, all generic, but then if you are not kinder to yourself, if you yourself are not well aligned with your own body or your own mindset, it's a problem there because then again, as you said, there is always a conflict. And it's sometimes okay also to have these conflicts because this is life, it can't be linear, and there will always be misalignation, but there are always tools to also deal with that. So thank you for that. Now,
I wait,
mhm,
hold up. I'd like to add to 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 respond to one of the things that you said, because you said sometimes there's alignment with your out of alignment with your body and your mind. And in the work that I was doing and the work that I continue to do, my work is very soul driven. I'm very connected to my divine source, like namely your website. And so I was really getting a lot of pressure from my inner world, from at the soul level to do the healing so that I could be the best teacher and speaker that I could be. And so I just wanted to add that we're an integrated system of mind, body, spirit, and emotion. And we have to be looking at all four of those in our attempt to heal ourselves internally so that we can present the best version of ourselves externally. And I'm not here to recommend that everybody do that so that they can become a spiritual teacher. I believe that this healing of our internal world, the mind, body, spirit, and emotion, or the integrated system allows us to be the best version of ourselves regardless of what we're doing, whether we're creating an art project, whether we're working in customer service, whether we're trying to heal our relationship with our parents, whether we're trying to be philanthropic, whether we're trying to be uh, socially engaged, whatever it is, relationships. I think that it really all begins with that inner healing in order to be the best version of yourself externally, and that then the conflict doesn't happen. Because yes, because we could all put our best foot forward, thinking that we are, but if we're not backing it up internally with our, of instead of feeling like, "Oh, I don't know, I guess I could do that, but I don't really feel it." We have to feel it. You have to feel it. You have to feel engaged with what you're trying to accomplish on the external world.
That is so, so true. And I hope the listeners also resonate with that. And I'm sure that they totally understand this because they've been through certain situations. And as you said, it does not always have to be, so that you become a preacher or, you become somebody to teach other people. But it's also just for you and your life and yourself, which is beautiful.
Yeah,
Now,
even as a parent, like, how are you in relationship and how are you being as a parent? Are you I'm older, so my children are adults, and I'm really watching them in relationships saying, "Oh, they're so conscientious in their relationship because they've done so much work in their inner world."
That is so so true again because there is not just one effect of the alienation, right? There is always two found results, where, as you said, the relationships also work better. There are so many things that just go with it. And I want to know that when inner world and outer purpose fall out of alignment, what patterns do you tend to see underneath, like emotionally, spiritually, or even culturally, so that our listeners, if they are also going through any of these, at least they're aware that okay, these are the patterns that I need to be aware of.
Yeah. So, w so th th we're here talking about the teachings from my current book, Harmony: The Frequency of True Success. But another profound book that I wrote was the one before that called Feast and Famine: Healing Addiction with Grace. And in that book, what I learned is that what we are most the what all addiction is suffering. And so addiction is the main addiction that everybody has is to suffering. And then we choose our secondary addictions like alcohol or a bad relationship or porn or cigarettes or eating or a bad job, right? Like we tend to have a secondary addiction that makes us feel better from the suffering that we're actually addicted to. And so my answer to you is that when you start to look at the trauma related to what caused that suffering, because remember we can have things happen to us from the moment that we're born. Our parents may not have been as enlightened as we would have liked them to be. We have pressure from our siblings, our schoolmates, and then we get into relationships, and then we have bosses, and then with the world, right? Our politicians, the world, and social media. And so there's all these different places that continue to perpetuate the trauma and the suffering. And so once you understand what your trauma pattern is, like why do you keep suffering, then and you heal that through professional help, then I believe that you'll be able to really then open up your inner world so that you can begin to listen to your divine spirit.
So true, so true. And it sounds like, much of the dissonance, it comes from living according to inherited expectations, I feel, rather than the embodied truth that exists. And it's almost like we are tuned to someone else's frequency from, taking someone else's, as I said, it's an inherited trait. So it is
It
somebody else's path, it is somebody else's truth, but we just own it for ourselves. And that is the frequency which causes the misalignment, I feel.
it is, and it's not necessary. It's interesting because there's a lot of spiritual teachers th that say that it's generational even, right? Like, there's trauma in our family history that we that has been carried forward for generations, and they say, when you're brave enough to do the work to heal that generational trauma, uh, then you heal your family lineage like 5 generations back and 5 generations forward. So if you're the brave one, if you're the one that says, "Enough is enough for our family, I'm gonna do this healing work," you're really a hero for your family, and it's not easy because everyone in your family is, part of it, and so they may not understand you, and they may not get the path that you're on, but, yeah, we all have to remember too that we are a soul being having a human being experience, not the other way around, and so our soul is here to grow and to learn and to move us forward on the soul's journey, and much of that is healing what we came here to heal so that we can learn more about what our soul's intention is for this lifetime.
That is so, so true. And I actually resonate with that. Thank you for that. And
Well,
I want to know, how does this misalignment usually show up in everyday life? We talked about patterns, we talked about, misalignment in general, what it does to you, what it does to your, functioning. But then how does it show up in everyday life, especially, people who are outwardly capable, responsible, and driven, and yet they see something is not going right. So what are these everyday signs which comes up?
yeah, I think that on a practical level, when folks are really driven, and that's the tool, like they're using work as their secondary addiction, right? Going back to what I said earlier, right? They're using their career, they're just striving and striving and striving. And what they're finding is what is happening is that they're out of alignment with what's going on internally. And so internally, they have a whole they don't know typically. Well, I'm not gonna say they don't know typically. I'm talking about the person that's out of alignment. There are many people that are in alignment and doing their purpose in the outside world and striving and making great things, and they're okay with that because it's really not it doesn't quite feel like work when and that's another way to know when you are doing and in alignment with your inner world and your outer world, it doesn't feel like work. And I think that's important. One of the things I also do is I am an executive director of a nonprofit organization that I so enjoy working for that I just don't feel like I'm working ever because it aligns with the harmony method. And because I am able to take who I truly am and bring it into service and leadership in that role, which creates a level of freedom. That's part of the harmony method. The freedom in the freedom, we think of freedom as not having things to do, but in this sense, freedom is the alignment of your inner world and your outer purpose. So I'm wondering, Pragya, maybe it would be a good time for me to just walk through the 6 steps of the harmony method so people get a good understanding. And I can use that through writing this book. Would that be good?
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, great. So I had received the 6 elements of the harmony method. Actually, it was probably at least 5 years ago. And I thought that what I was receiving from the divine realm was the 6 stages of spiritual success. And you know how we have to name everything, right? But I didn't really do anything. And then last year, I had I had 2 people say to me, "Robin, when I grow up, I wanna be peaceful and as calm as you are." And I thought, "Oh, I just heard that twice." Said, "I know in my life, the divine only has to tell me things 2 times for me to take action." And so I sat down in my meditation, talking to my soul, and I said, why did those people say that?" And then they said just one word, they said, "Harmony." And I'm like, "Oh, harmony. That is what that could be a result of harmony, like living a harmonious life." And so then I decided I so that's awareness, right? There was something that I was feeling that I needed to look into. And then the awareness came when in meditation I heard the word harmony. And so now I'm aware of the word harmony, and I'm like, well, I'm an author. This would be my 5th book. So maybe I'm supposed to write a book called Harmony. And so then I made the commitment, which is the second step to write this book. I started researching, I started doing things. And then when I was ready to write, for a year, I put on my calendar 1 hour every day to write this book. And I did that. And I wrote for an hour. Sometimes I wrote nothing, but I was there at my computer and I sat there and I finished it. Then the next stage is so we had awareness, then commitment. The next stage is mastery, where I had to start embodying the teachings that I was writing about. And to be honest, Pragya, that was not easy for me. I know that in order for me to get out into the world and talk about something, I really need to understand it myself. And it took me a little while to really embrace the teachings and embody them. So that's the significant word here for mastery, embodying the teachings. Once I did that, I was able to move into the next phase 4, which is service, and that is coming on podcasts like yours and talking to people about the harmony method and getting it further out into the world. And then after that is leadership, which begins with self leadership. Am I walking the walk of these teachings? Do I come off as someone who's in harmony? Do I enter difficult conversations in alignment with my soul, with myself, and what I'm saying out loud to someone else? Am I speaking from that inner world of peacefulness and calmness? And am I so that's self-leadership, right? How am I being in the world? Am I being harmonious? And then obviously leads to external leadership and hopefully building a movement called the Harmony Movement. And then the freedom is now that my inner world is in harmony and I'm teaching harmony, then I'm truly in harmony. And so that is it's another way of looking at harmony. I'm harmonious on the inside, I'm harmonious on the outside in what I'm doing, and that creates freedom, the real true meaning of freedom, which is alignment. All of that to say that that path and the energy flowing through that path creates the true frequency of success, which is harmony.
That is beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And listeners, I have a key takeaway from Robin today that, true harmony is not about doing more or, polishing everything. It's about living from same truth on the inside that guides your life on the outside. And that is something that I deeply, deeply resonate with. And I hope you do too. And Robin, at last, I want to know, like, for the listeners, where can they learn more about your work and the Harmony Method? And yeah.
Yeah. Yes, so listeners can go to my website, which is harmonywithrobin.com or robinhclaire.com, however they want to get to me. But Harmony with Robin is the most interesting. And I have a lot of great information on my website. I have a lot of free things that they can take a look at, teachings and blogs. And then I have a inexpensive way to just ask me one question. You can just if you have a situation going on in your life and you need guidance on that, there's a way to do that. It's called the Akashic Harmony message. And so you'll be you, everybody I'll be focusing more on that on my website. And that's it. And then in social media you can find me as well everywhere.
Thank you for that. And listeners, she has given you all the ways you can reach out to her. And I hope that you do. If there is anything that you feel that even if you're stuck or if you just even want to have the knowledge about her work and what she does and want to, like, if you resonate, just let her know. And thank you for joining us on the Divine Decode podcast. If something in this conversation resonated, let it linger, listeners, not as pressure, but as an invitation. Harmony often begins the moment we stop resisting what's true. Until next time, listen gently and live aligned.